Robbie forgotten. Epilogue. Consider this. Sportacus struggled to remain conscious. His lips felt tacky and numb from the candy apple he had eaten. Sugar churned through his body like molten lead, robbing him of his strength, sapping him of his energy. He was too weak to move, too weak to call for help. So there he lay, motionless, on the cold concrete floor of Robbie Rotten's lair. The only thing he could do was think. He thought about his predicament, incapacitated and trapped in a place where no one would know to look for him. He thought about the kids and their surprise party, wondering what kind of surprise would be in store for them. And he thought about Robbie. He remembered that fateful day when Robbie first lost his memory. The kids were so excited to convince Robbie that he was nice, to encourage him to be good. And Robbie had been so anxious and relieved, so ready to accept that he and Sportacus were best friends. Sportacus had really believed then that maybe this was a good idea, that they were going to help Robbie to be more active, healthy, and happy. Almost right away, there was trouble. Even with his memories gone, somehow Robbie still found ways to be Robbie Rotten. Every time he pinched a candy or tried to nap, or he said something sarcastic or played a little prank, he was met with lectures and scolding and shouting. Everyone was constantly worried that Robbie would remember, and they did everything they could to make sure he didn't. But eating candy and cake, taking naps, putting on a disguise, not even finding his lair had been enough to bring back Robbie's memories. All they did was make the poor man more confused as he tried to navigate his new life. So long as Robbie behaved the right way and ate his vegetables, played with the kids, and helped out with chores around town, everyone was happy. Everyone except Robbie. It wasn't really a surprise to Sportacus that Robbie would want his memories back. But would it really be helping Robbie if he were to remember? Before he'd lost his memory, had Robbie seemed all that happy then either? He was always so grumpy before, always yelling at the kids to stop playing, always trying to sabotage their games and take away their sports equipment. Frankly, Robbie had been a bit of a bully, a curmudgeon, a plainly unhappy person. No, that wasn't true. He used to laugh more. When unleashing his schemes, springing his traps, and cavorting about in his disguises, Robbie was almost always smiling and laughing, even if it wasn't for the best reasons. Robbie had moved plenty before, too, whenever he was sneaking around. He'd sung and danced with everyone as long as he was doing it as a part of one of his tricks, would play games with the kids all the time as part of one ploy or another. Really, in some ways, Robbie wasn't so different then from how they had tried to make him be now. The only thing that Sportacus had ever really wished would change about the other man was that actively hating him part that he'd never been able to break through before, as much as he tried to win Robbie over. Sportacus had liked Robbie just fine the way he was, all things considered. Except now, Robbie really was unhappy, and Sportacus couldn't pretend anymore that this had been a good idea. He had failed to help Robbie when the man needed his help most, choosing instead to help himself. There was nothing heroic about that. As long and hard as he thought about it, Sportacus hadn't been able to figure out how to make it right, how he could really help. Not until he'd been surprised by Robbie's letter, asking him to come down. Of course Sportacus accepted the invitation. He would do anything for his best friend, even if that meant entering the villain's lair and falling for an obvious trap. Because honestly, when Robbie Rotten of all people offers you an apple of all things, it's not that surprising what should happen. After all of the things that Robbie went through for Sportacus, it was the least that Sportacus could do for him. That's what friends are for.